Friends must have been one of the first sitcoms I watched in its entirety, and although Rachel wasn't my favorite, I did think she was a good actress. While looking for polls on popularity of the characters, I came across one on YouGov, which, by the way, I'm not sure how reliable they are, and if they are not, well, I still like showing graphs and seem intellectual. This poll said that Rachel is the favorite among the American audience, which contrasts with the British audience, where she ranks more or less in the middle, similar to another poll that I found on Reddit. So, we could conclude that, at the very least, she's not at the least popular. That spot, according to this, seems to be more secure by Ross. And from my point of view, Jennifer Aniston wouldn't be the first person who comes to mind when we think of comedians, but she has undoubtedly remained in the comedy genre for a long time. So how did she, without apparently being a true comedian, become interested in it? And not only that, but also succeed in shows like Friends and manage to surpass that success years later. Is there some secret to her humor that no one is noticing? Or is it simply luck? Well, we first have to know how she became interested in comedy. From a young age, she had already a connection to the world of entertainment due to her father, John Aniston, who was already famous at that time. The event that would mark the stage and likely be the root of her humor was her parents' divorce.
I mean, honestly, the best thing that came out of it was my sense of humor, because there were some pretty sad moments, as any kid from a divorce will tell you.
In almost a rebellious manner and against her father's wishes, she began to take an interest in acting. That's why she enrolled in Manhattan's Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, where she started acting in dramatic roles in plays by Anton Chekhov. One of the early jobs that would also mark her path in comedy was at the Public Theater. There, she performed in a play where every time she delivered a line, the audience laughed. One night she noticed that Al Pacino was in the audience and not dancing for an Adam Sandler movie, which she couldn't believe. I realized that I'm staring straight into this huge gaping cavern that is the mouth of Al Pacino. He's sitting in the audience next to Diane Keaton, and he's really laughing. I couldn't believe it. I made Al Pacino laugh. It was one of the greatest moments I ever had. A moment like that can carry you for a year or two. With these small experiences, she decided to take the big leap in comedy and move to ESPN. I'm kidding. I mean to Los Angeles to take her career seriously. There, she had her first experiences in television comedy, but not with great results. In 1990, she participated in the sitcoms Molloy and Ferris Bueller, the television adaptation of the 1986 movie. Later, she was in the television comedy series The Edge. Unfortunately, all these attempts were failures, as these series were quickly cancelled. However, far from discouraging her, this gave her more confidence, and by 1993, she fought the Lucky Charms on bath salts in Leprechaun, which, although a horror movie, also had its touches of humor. At that time, her small attempts in comedy did not go unnoticed, and Lorne Michaels, creator and producer of Saturday Night Live, offered her a job there, which she turned down. Initially, I thought the reason was that she was already working on Friends, but it seems it was because, at least for her at the time, the male-dominated work environment was not appealing.
I didn't think I would like that environment. Aunt Sandler was there and Spade was there.
Despite this, like many things in life, comedy didn't leave Aniston. And around the same time, she was auditioning for Friends, landing her most famous role as Rachel Green. Ironically, life tested her again, since Aniston had also just finished filming Motley Through, and if it had been successful, she would have had abandoned her role in Friends. This never happened, and Aniston began filming Friends from the first season. At first, she was supposed to be Monica, but in the end, Courtney Cox, yes, the same Courtney Cox who danced on stage with Bruce Springsteen, got the role, leaving us with Aniston as Rachel. And just like that, Bruce Springsteen saved the world once again. Rachel's comedic brilliance might not have been as overly aggressive as Chandler's, but within the role, it worked well. Rachel started as this clumsy young woman who doesn't know what the world is about, and part of her humor was based on that.
Rach, yeah? Why does my cinnamon stick have an eraser? Oh. Oh, that's why. Sorry.
As the episodes and seasons progress, Rachel matures and isn't just that spoiled and clumsy girl. The good thing is that by reducing the exaggeration of the clumsy girl, the comedy doesn't just rely on that. Rachel starts to have more interactions with the others, especially with Ross, Monica, Chandler, Phoebe, but never with Joey. Yeah, that brief thing they had never really counted, and no one can convince me otherwise. Additionally, we would also see a characteristic that other Aniston roles would have, her comedic timing. Aniston uses this resource by speeding up her voice or pausing, which combined with her facial expressions make her lines funnier.
You know, I mean, you do remember what happened to the little girl who tried too much too fast, don't you?
What?
She died, Jill.
Personally, in Friends, she didn't seem the funniest to me, but I don't think she's a complete flat character either, as I have read. I think Aniston fits Rachel, but the character doesn't lend itself to making jokes every 5 minutes. The series was extended for several seasons because of its success and because the writers had no clue how to end the Rachel and Ross never-ending soap opera, so by the end of the last season, the cast salaries had increased from $25,000 in the first season to $1 million in the final one. By 2004, Aniston was one of the highest paid actresses in the world, and she wasn't going to stop there, like some of her colleagues. Honestly, it's not that her Friends co-stars were failure after the series, but apparently they were not as interested in a Hollywood career as Aniston. This is why I believe that the question of why Aniston succeeded in Hollywood in comedy and her colleagues didn't might not be the right question. For instance, David Schwimmer really struggled with the fame Friends brought him, and he even turned down being in Men in Black, because what he really wanted was to continue as director, which he did by directing 2 episodes of the spin-off Joey, which ended up failing, but it doesn't matter, because the lesson, kids, is to follow your dreams instead of chasing Hollywood fame that would bring you endless money and happiness. On the other hand, it was also rumored that Aniston's success was mainly due to her romance with Brad Pitt, rather than her own talent. Although this might have an influence, I believe it wasn't as much as some people think, because some of her success came even before she met Brad Pitt. Then there are other factors that are difficult to measure, such as luck, connections, or having an excellent management and publicist. All this contributed to Aniston remaining relevant in comedy in the following years. Right after Friends, she starred in Alone Came Polly, which was a success, partly due to Ben Stiller, his salsa dancing skills, and his not so great scuba diving abilities. This is where another factor comes into play as to why I believe Aniston remains so relevant in comedies. She knew how to work with the right people. And by the right people, I don't mean Werner Herzog or Scorsese. I mean real experts such as Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, and the most well-known of all, Adam Sandler. The latter was already familiar with Aniston from the days when he was on Saturday Night Live, and coincidentally, he was one of those who wanted her to work there instead of on Friends. Although they didn't work there, it is well known that Adam always tries to include his friends in his productions, which clearly benefited Aniston. With Sandler, they starred in Just Go With It and the 2 murder mystery movies, which, like almost everything Sandler touches, were a success. To be fair, connections are important, but Aniston wouldn't be famous just because of that. Aniston has demonstrated on some occasions that she can do other things, and yes, Aniston could be another one of those cases where she always acts like Aniston, or rather like Rachel Green. However, even though in my opinion she follows a clear character pattern, what also helps her is that she can deviate a bit even within the same comedy genre, as she demonstrated in Horrible Bosses and We Are the Millers. In this, she clearly wasn't the young or indecisive woman, and sometimes clumsy, who is, with the novel but somewhat foolish man. Instead, she is a strong woman who teaches her fake son how to kiss by kissing him along with his daughter. Other roles that are a bit different include The Morning Show or Cake, where she tries to move even further away from comedy. Is Aniston then an underrated comedy genius that no one noticed? As we've already reviewed, Aniston didn't need intricate humor tools to make her way in comedy. Perhaps that's why, at least in the comedy world, several people don't take her into account despite all the successful productions she's been in. This doesn't necessarily seem bad to me. You don't need to be Steve Carell or Shaq to succeed in Hollywood comedy. Jennifer Aniston's success secret, although accompanied by luck and the guy who made Al Pacino dance, also required her particular subtle humor and good comedic timing to fit perfectly in romantic comedies and series like Friends, which, whether we like it or not, marked an era in television and comedy.